This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. 5 years ago, deep in a bear market, a group of traditional finance experts founded BitGet, and they've been building ever since. Now, with 20 million users worldwide, BitGet is committed to helping users trade smarter by providing a secure one-stop crypto investment solution with copy trading, future trading, and spot trading. Your security is their priority, and BitGet has one of the largest protection funds in the industry with US $300 million to cover potential trader losses from unforeseen events that are not due to misconduct from the user or platform. BitGet wants to inspire everyone to embrace Web3, so if you're new to crypto, learn more at the BitGet Academy with free blockchain courses, crypto guides, cryptocurrency trading strategies, and more. Or for the experienced investor, trade smarter with daily access to institutional-grade crypto market intelligence and trends analysis with BitGet Research. I've put links to BitGet Research and the BitGet Academy in the show notes, so get amongst it or simply go to bitget.com. Thank you to BitGet, and now it is on with the show. My guest today is Chris Bradbury. Chris is the CEO at Summer.fi, which is what's DeFi made easy, is one way of describing it, but we'll learn all about this today from Chris. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here, Chris. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. Be great if you could please introduce yourself. I'd love to hear some of your personal and professional backstory, what you've been doing in the lead up to becoming a CEO at Summer.fi.
Yeah, sure thing. So, like you said, Chris at Summer.fi, and started crypto journey kind of back in 2018, or working in crypto at least in 2018. Joined the MakerDAO, or the Maker Foundation, kind of halfway through 2018. Just as that kind of they were kind of had Single Collateral Dai launched, kind of getting ready for multi-collateral Dai, which feels such a long time ago now, given all the changes Maker were going through. Joined them as their first product manager. At the time, just responsible for kind of anything product related, really. Kind of working very closely with the head of product there, obviously the design teams and engineering teams. Gradually kind of just moved over to just the kind of mainly the front end tools. So at the time it was kind of when I joined, it was just a Dai dashboard, the super horrible gray dashboard that took about 15 clicks to open a single collateral Dai position back in the day. And kind of really that was the start of the Summer journey, up until today, really. Kind of that very first Dai dashboard, horrible like interface, really. And kind of imagine taking that all the way through to where we are today. Really, we obviously had launched multi-collateral Dai in November 2019 at Maker, and with that we had the new front end, the Oasis front end at the time, Oasis.app, where you could borrow, save, and trade back in the day. And then fast forward in a couple of years, when the Maker Foundation dissolved in kind of the summer 2021, we took the Oasis app out as a separate product, kind of as its own standalone entity, really, because there's so many components to it that couldn't really be community run as such, as kind of as part of a DAO, really. So we took that into its own entity and kind of turned it, or started that transition into a DeFi front end, really. Kind of, I think at the time we described it as like the most trusted place to access DeFi, to like deposit and manage your collateral or your capital. And then last summer we rebranded from Oasis.app to Summer.fi. And just since then, really just been adding new protocols, adding new networks, and pretty much the name of the game this year as well. Trying to make DeFi a really simple to use and understand experience, really. It's always been the thing that's kind of let DeFi down the UX thing ever since DeFi started, really.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that is kind of partly the story of crypto as well.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, well, let's dig into that a little bit, and maybe we can start by just, I mean, the name itself. I mean, it kind of it makes sense. But you and I were joking, Chris, before we started recording. I think you're in deepest, darkest Europe. It's nighttime where you are at the moment, and it's kind of the middle of winter. Whereas I'm down under. I'm in New Zealand. It's early morning, and I'm enjoying the great New Zealand summer. But yeah, I guess that's a roundabout way of saying, I'm sure it relates a little bit to DeFi Summer as well. But yeah, just why Summer.fi?
Yeah, well, I think you pretty much nailed it. I mean, we had the Oasis app brand before, and the Oasis app brand really was there because of its connection to Maker, like all the way back in the Oasis Dex days, the very first Oasis, the very first on-chain Dex, basically. So that was a trusted brand. But once we started to move away from Maker, we needed to rebrand. And I think like we went through a number of names and a number of different processes as well, like trying to find like kind of like Greek or Latin words or anything like that. And in the end, we kind of kept it simple, really. Like everyone, like, and we're in the kind of depths of the bear market at this point as well, and a lot of talk about crypto winter and kind of when is crypto summer coming back. And yeah, it's kind of people use the app like we don't have many bearish users on the app. Everyone is generally a pretty bullish user. Like we can see that through the activity. Like when the market moves upwards, obviously the activity is way more active than when the market's moving downwards, for example. And yeah, summer's just such a crypto related word and in such a positive way. And it's also kind of fun and relaxed, which was kind of important to us, right? Because we're not a bank, we're not the kind of like super serious kind of Goldman Sachs or anything like that. We also don't necessarily want to go all the way down the other end where you can't take us seriously. So summer kind of fitted really nicely into the middle. It kind of also, as a word, gave us a really nice kind of color palette as well from a design point of view and UX point of view, which is really important. Um, but yeah, and it's just a word that resonates with the crypto community, and I think any community really, in a really positive way. Like you don't want a brand name that's anyone just has negative connotations about, right? So even Winterfi, like that's like it's negative from the off, unless you're a huge winter fan. But again, most people are not going to be rooting for the kind of cold wind and rain when you could have the clear blue skies and sunshine kind of shining down on you.
Yeah, I think that's exactly correct and very well said. And yeah, I mean, look, listeners, if you want to just go to the website is simply Summer.fi. Link will be in the show notes, of course. But yeah, you can just see the color palette is just so tasteful, Chris, and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, it feels nice. And of course, this carries through to I guess the front end design, the UI, the UX, so important in DeFi, and it does carry through. It feels like a quality product. It looks like a quality product, something that has had been well thought out, really, which is what you want. In the old days of the early kind of DeFi platforms, it was very slapdash, and you just didn't necessarily feel that something always felt a bit off, right? So you talk to us about, I suppose, what you're trying to achieve with Summer.fi as you built this out, and yeah, the kind of decisions you've made from that product design perspective, I guess, and who you're aiming it at.
Yeah, I think we're still a long way from being even like super happy with the
Sure.
product. We still struggle a lot with actually there's so much you can do in crypto, particularly as we add more of these protocols on. Each protocol works in a different way and so on. And I think just because of that and because of the users out there at the moment, like our target audience is still a fairly sophisticated user. Like if you're like the retail users are still in reality better off going just to like a centralized exchange, right? Especially like the ones like Coinbase and so on that just offer staking services. Like if you just want to deposit and stake and so on, like a very small amount, like and you're happy to trust them with the custody of your assets, then that works, right? But for us, we're trying to take that one step further. Like we do the yield loop staking and so on through like multiple different protocols, whether it's like Spark, Aave, Argent again now, Morpho Blue coming up, and like where yeah, you could go and stake on a very simple platform as a retail user on Coinbase or whatever and earn your 4%. Or you can get this yield loop where you're, depending on the day, kind of earning maybe somewhere between 6 and 12% on there. With that little bit of added risk, you've also got the added risk of self-custody as well, like the cold kind of keys thing as well. But yeah, like at the moment, like we're still a long way, I think, from DeFi being open to the billions of people around the world, or even the kind of tens of millions, and so on in reality. And we're talking about like daily users here. So yeah, the users for Summer, like I think it looks quite retaily in places, but you've still got to be a fairly kind of sophisticated kind of DeFi user or crypto user to really get going. I mean, you can definitely start off easily with it, like the simple borrow actions and so on. If you own 5 ETH or something like that and you just want to borrow a couple of $100 or a couple of $1,000 against it, it's super easy to do that. Obviously your dollars are in DAI or USDC or whatnot. But yeah, so you can start easily, but the core products, some of the automation products and so on, yeah, they're really tied to like slightly more sophisticated users.
Yeah, and that makes sense as well. And I think because, people, there's so many different, I suppose, audiences in crypto now, more than perhaps there used to be, especially now with the availability of Bitcoin ETFs, and presumably, Ethereum ETFs will come down the line perhaps later this year. But it's that classic case, Chris. You'll be very familiar with that kind of user journey, I guess. As people come into crypto, they get some Bitcoin, and then they go a little bit further out on the risk curve. They get some Ethereum, some altcoins, then they have a portfolio tracker, and they get interested in watching the volatility of their assets go up,
absolutely.
up and down. And then, the next step from that is if, perhaps if they've got enough ETH, or they can join a staking pool or something like that. And then if they're, sort of that way inclined, they have the sort of, they're really interested, or, they have a brain that is good with finance and numbers and stuff like that. It's only then that they're kind of really ready to jump into DeFi. So if that's the case, how do you think that kind of scales out over? I mean, we'll talk about some of the strategies and stuff you can do on Summer, but how do you think it scales out beyond that, so those sort of DeFi power users to help make the advantages of DeFi available to people that don't necessarily have all the time, the spare time and energy to learn how to do this in a safe and responsible way, shall we say?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I mean, maybe not agreeable by all, but I'm definitely under the strong opinion, and I came from a fintech background prior to crypto as well. But I do think once we start to get bigger and wider adoption, and once things like regulations and stuff come in, you're gonna see kind of Web2 fintech, I think, and enter this space a lot more. Whether that's through APIs of like products like ourselves and so on. So we carry on doing a lot of like kind of the grunt work at the smart contract level and the proxy level to make it easy in single transactions and so on. And exposing all of this kind of functionality that you see on Summer through an API that these Web2 fintech apps can start to use. So like there are so many fintech apps out there now all around the world that have got tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users, from very basic savings or just bank account to savings to like obviously depositing into like investment funds and traditional ETFs, maybe now Bitcoin ETFs and so on, like you said. But I think like once the regulations come in, because none of these Web2 apps and companies, whether they're regulated in their own way or not, like none of them can do anything really until the regulators say that they can. Like they've already got their business models and so on, already got their like hundreds of thousands or millions of users. But they can't take that risk. Their compliance teams are not going to take the risk on kind of non-custodial crypto when and the things it has to offer when there is no clear guidance from any regulator kind of anywhere in the world at the moment. So I think once the regulations clear up a lot more, I think you're going to start to see way more way more companies and entities, not just in the Web3 world, but the Web2 world entering the Web3 world much, much more. I mean, we saw it a little bit in kind of 2021, right? There was a lot of like kind of Web2 companies trying to see how they could take advantage, and so on. I mean, unfortunately, there was a number of apps around like Luna, Terra, and UST and so on that, I mean, for most of us on kind of deep inside the DeFi side could see that the kind of scam that was, but it was always drowned out from the kind of 20% returns and so on. But yeah, I think the regulations are the thing that's holding back the biggest adoption right now, because that's where a lot of people are going to access crypto ultimately through the products that already exist today, but are going to hop through obviously the protocols and so on DeFi, I think.
Yes, indeed. Very well said again, Chris. Let's bring it back to Summer.fi then. And look, I suppose in DeFi in general, there's kind of, when you think of DeFi, there's kind of three main use cases for DeFi, and then you can kind of go wider, but it's kind of, borrow, lend, and earn is the kind of the easy way of approaching DeFi. And you've kind of done that with Summer.fi, right? With your products that you call multiply, borrow, and earn.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, for us, that was always the three main use cases of DeFi. Plus obviously the swapping, like the swapping side of it, that kind of like the Uniswaps, 1inch sushis, CowSwap, and so on. Like they've cornered that DEX market, right? In reality. So like that's why you don't really see a dominant swap feature on the UI, because there's other people doing that way better than we could ever kind of catch up. Like you might catch up with them, but you're never gonna then like you'll release something to the same level as them, and then they'll release something even better probably straight after. So like we've got a swap widget, but it's not heavily used. The big products for us, borrow, multiply, and earn. And earn is kind of a multitude of products, really. You've got the very basic lending, so you can just go and deposit a token, lend it on a market, Aave, Spark, Arjna, or whatever, and earn whatever the pool is paying, or whatever the protocol is paying, depending on the protocol that you're using, whether that's something like Arjna, which is obviously pair based and so on, or Aave and Spark. And then you've got the kind of more advanced yield loop strategies that we touched on before. So this is kind of like depositing ETH into a wrap staked ETH pool, and like kind of multiplying it 10x in a way. So you're getting 10x the exposure to the staked ETH returns on the staked ETH pool. So if the staked ETH rate is 4%, you're getting basically 10x exposure to that, minus whatever the borrow cost is of borrowing the ETH against it. So you're depositing staked ETH, borrowing ETH against it, and just looping that as many times as you can, really, up until the liquidation point. And in theory, the price of obviously like wrap staked ETH is only going to increase against ETH. So in theory, the theoretical theory is the liquidation risk is very low, but the price and the peg can always break. So there is always that risk. And that's the kind of those jumps up in kind of ability and sophistication and understanding those things. Because there's also at the complete opposite end of most basic earn strategies, which is just the Dai savings rate. For example, on Maker, which is super simple. It's a deposit. It tells you how much you've deposited. It tells you how much you're earning, and you can just withdraw at any point. The other key one for us is multiply, which I alluded to a little bit a few moments ago as well, with the yield loop, where that multiplies your exposure. Multiply is basically the same as that, except it's to volatile assets. So wrap BTC, staked ETH, but more often than not against DAI and USDC, and so on, or the opposite way around, to short it as well, if you want. But like I said, mainly we see kind of bullish users in DeFi, and at least on Summer, we don't see many people shorting the market in DeFi through us. Mainly it's, I think, 95% people going long. But that is just doing effectively what you could do manually in 10 transactions. It allows you to do everything in one transaction. So you deposit, say, 50 ETH, and it will go and it will flash loan maybe another 100 ETH. It will swap that 150 ETH. Trying to get my head around this now. Basically, it will end you with a position that's like 3x exposure to ETH against DAI. So it will flash loan, sorry, like 150,000 DAI or something. It will swap that to ETH, put the ETH all inside the position, and then draw the DAI and repay the flash loan in a single transaction. So you could go and do that yourself, but it would require multiple like iterations of the same thing basically. And yeah, it would take you about 10 transactions. So it's just trying to simplify the UX again, really, and enable you to save a lot of money on gas, more like 9 times out of 10. And then the most basic and oldest product we've got is Borrow, and that's the kind of the really old incarnation of the original vision of Maker, where you would bring your crypto assets along with you, whether that's like kind of the blue chip ones, whether it's like kind of ETH, Staked ETH, Rocket ETH, Wrap BTC, or whatever. And now with Argent, it can be any ERC20 you've got. And you can borrow any token against it. More often than not, again, it's DAI or USDC, but you can borrow that. So, and we've had some amazing use cases of people buying a car and using their crypto as a loan, deposit for a house. Like again, using, or like even taking a loan out against their crypto if they're super early adopters and so on. Someone in LATAM buying a TV with some of the ETH they had, but without selling their ETH. So there's like completely, like there is a complete like range of people and use cases for the product. And although I said it's for very sophisticated users, there is ultimately a product for everybody, but the sophistication really comes in as well. That for any product on Summer, it's only self-custodial. So it's only non-custodial. So you have to manage your own private key. You have to store your seed phrase somewhere. We have customer support for like the website, but there is no customer support for like Ethereum. Like you do something wrong, you give your seed phrase away, you store it online or something like that. There is nothing, like nobody can help with. And that's a pretty difficult step to get over. And I think even on Twitter, you see a lot of even kind of OGs of crypto being scammed or like somehow like leaking their keys without realizing it or something like that. Like they maybe started in 2017, 2018, maybe accidentally put it into a Google Doc 6 years ago and didn't realize, and it gets out somehow. So like that's the bit we can't solve for right now.
Yeah, and it's the paradox of crypto, isn't it? And in one sense, there's nothing more secure than the ability to custody your own assets. But with that comes, as I say, the paradox that, and well, you explained it quite well. It's just so easy over time because the brain, your memory plays tricks on you. So that's a great example of maybe you put it into a Google Doc 6 years or so and you have no memory of doing so. And but aside from that, even the much bigger risk, I suppose, is just the sheer amount of bad actors across crypto who are dedicated to trying to get people to click on a malicious link and go from there, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, I still say to a lot of my friends that like kind of like don't really know anything about crypto, but like 90% of crypto is still a scam. I think we're obviously as well now being kind of inundated a little bit with the kind of points, like apps launching points and so on to try and entice you in to use the app or switch to this app and so on, or switch wallets to from X to Y and so on. And I mean that introduces dangers in itself because it incentivizes so many more bad actors to just put the fake links that always seem to make it into Google. It's so difficult to know what you're doing. And even I think, is it just before Christmas with the Ledger update, the library update with Ledger, and almost nothing that like no dApps or anything like that needed to do any updates or anything like that themselves. It just updated itself. Basically, if you did, I think like another deploy in that period, and like users were at risk of having all their funds stolen from this fake Ledger update. And like that's the point where even you can do all the standard stuff. You can check the URL, you can check for the lockbox, you can absolutely triple check like you're definitely on the right link and definitely doing the right sort of transaction on the UI. And then you kind of, it gets through to your ledger and you press the button. And like we all know how difficult it is to verify transactions on hardware wallets, like Ledger and Trezor in particular. And yeah, even the smartest of us can, like, I mean, I panicked that day because I'd used my Ledger uh the I think fortunately about 2 hours before it all happened. But when I saw the Ledger stuff kicking off on Twitter and so on, and like, yeah, I mean, I was sweating when I quickly stuck my address in Etherscan to see if everything was still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Scary times. Talk to us, Chris, about, I guess any kind of user metrics, I don't know, value transacted. What can you tell us about, I guess, user growth over the Summer.fi journey, and kind of, please feel free to kind of relate that to how you see, the health or not of the DeFi ecosystem in general.
Yeah, I mean, from a user growth point of view, I mean, we've like, like all the way back from the kind of Oasis.app days of kind of 2019 when we launched MCD, we've kind of been through what was the kind of end of the bear market in 2019 into the bull market, kind of like late 2020 into 2021, and then obviously the deep bear then kind of start of 22 or kind of end of 21, 22. And I mean, and I think everyone's in the same boat, right? And all of the metrics kind of say the same job on every DApp. Like when the markets are going up, the users are flooding in. We see exactly the same. As soon as the market jumps up, like boom, like new users and so on. Like we had, I think, like kind of 20% user growth in Q4 last year, just when the markets were kind of on that bit of rally from like kind of mid-October. Really all the way through to Christmas. But that, like, it was so flat, for example, I think from like May, June time to September, kind of just a gradual kind of like gradual gains here and there, losses some weeks of users. We actually had an uptick like start of the year. I don't know if you remember, but we had that little bit of optimism January, February last year. And it was kind of like, oh, are we back? And it was like, no, we're not. But it only takes a few days of the market to move upwards before we start to see all those users kind of reopening their positions. Like we track kind of reactivated users, as well as new users and so on. So those users that have closed out their positions and kind of left the protocols that we support. And we can see like when they like using the same wallet address, if they do use the same wallet address, like obviously start using it again. I mean, that's the great thing about kind of crypto, like you can, and blockchain, like you don't know who these people are, but you can see what the wallet addresses are doing. And from our point of view as well, you can also see if those wallet addresses have become active somewhere else and not with you, which tells you need to do something better, right? But yeah, it's so market dependent. I think September, I think we saw like some of the lowest DEX trading volumes in 2 years. I know for centralized exchanges as well, like some of the volumes they were reporting were some of the lowest for a long time as well. And so the trend is pretty much across the board. I think from a TVL point of view, I think we did pretty well in summer. I think we, like some of the metrics we had, we kind of outperformed the kind of market TVL when it comes to percentages, kind of like either gained or dropping, depending on the market at the time. And we do like to say that we've got products for kind of both or all three states of the market, whether that's a downwards market, a crab market, or an upwards market. But yeah, you can't get over people's motivation to use products and use DeFi when the markets are going up. And yeah, it felt like a long bear market or a long crypto winter, really. Kind of start of 22 all the way through 2023, really until Q4 last year. And a lot of people left. And we all saw crypto Twitter as well, right? Like crypto Twitter just died really by the end of the summer. There was just hardly anybody around, except primarily for the like kind of people that were still around in like 2018, 2019 that had stuck with it. But from volumes point of view, I mean, I think we were kind of on 400-500 million a month in Q3 last year. And then as soon as that bull market bull market vibes really kind of hit us in Q4, I think we smashed like straight up to like 1.5 billion a month on average. in that period. And I think the front page of Summer.fi now, so it's like something like 4 billion TVL being managed kind of through the Summer.fi UI at the moment. Which, yeah, great feeling for us at Summer.
Yeah, great. Look, 4 billion, great feeling indeed. I suppose that leads us to, the logical question then is, if Q4 last year was a very bullish quarter led by the momentum leading up to the Bitcoin ETFs. Since then, it hasn't been a great January. Obviously, ETF thing did turn out to be a kind of, to use a cliche, buy the rumor, sell the news event. Mainly, perhaps because of the grayscale situation, and maybe it's like the FTX's grayscale shares, all that has to be unlocked and unwound, and so you got this intense selling pressure from grayscale. But it's incredible how you see the sentiment turn on crypto Twitter. Very, very dark.
100%.
At the moment, even though you'd have to think that, the Bitcoin price is holding up pretty good considering the amount of unwinding happening. But I guess, big question, Chris, when DeFi summer, when 2.0, 3.0, whatever you want to call it.
I wish. I mean, if we could tell you that, we would we'd have some new products available.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things if you resorted to buying just at the very end, like it's like, I think DCA strategies are always the best things in this one, right? If you're just in it and you're just buying a little bit every single week or month, regardless of the price, that's always been kind of a long-term successful strategy. Trying to second guess the market, and I say that as a hypocrite because I use like the multiply product on Summer and so on, where I do try and like second guess the market and so on. But nobody knows in reality, and I think most of us as well are not fast enough to time the market to make the most out of it. I mean, I very, very, very rarely trade, and I'm just so bad at it. Like I think I've tried it a handful of times, and I normally catch the top of the peak, and then I end up closing my position out from desperation at the very bottom of a trough just in a single day. And it isn't the way. I think that we don't know when the market's going to improve. I mean, I think we're all hoping it's going to continue kind of on a rise this year. I mean, I think looking at the ETH price in particular, I think even today it's only back to where it was over Christmas on like the 25th, 26th of December, right? So you still have all of those Q4 gains that it had, and it feels like a big drop. I think it's like down 7% or so today, but it only takes us back. I kind of think where we are, but basically 30 days. Yet we were well up, like 30 days ago, we were well up where we were from September, for example. So yeah, there's a lot of short-termism when it comes to viewing prices, and particularly price drops, and so on. But again, we see it in the metrics, we see it in Summer in particular. Like a lot of people, they buy after seeing the prices rise for a couple of weeks. They'd like get that feeling that it's in a good space and so on. And we're trying to help them on Summer as well with automation tools to try and make sure they buy at the right prices, or set up buys at like the automated buy, like step buys on the way up. And we've got stop losses to help them reduce any losses. We've got a trailing stop loss coming out very, very soon, which should help even better. So as that price rises up, like it has done over the last few weeks, and then this week where it's dropped away, like it would have closed you out quite early on that drop if you set it up properly. And hopefully you'd be there pretty happy as like, hey, taking out my profits. Like I'm happy, because there was so many of us in 2021 that didn't take any profits, right? And I think that was the kind of not depression and so on, but like the reason we saw so many people leave that crypto Twitter, for instance, in 2022, like they missed the point. And I think a lot of us did it as well in 2017 as well, right? Like we didn't close out thinking it would just bounce back again. And it did back then, but you've got to stick with it and there is no guarantee. But it's hard. But like I said, grayscale at the moment is the thing holding it, like their FTX stuff. So like it's good when there's a reason, I think. Like it's the time sometimes when when it has a 10% drop and everyone's kind of scrambling around to say like, why has that happened?
Yeah.
Like at least there's a reason this time, which is sometimes quite rare in crypto, right?
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, look, as we finish up this part of the podcast, Chris, for anyone interested in jumping into Summer.fi, tell people where and how they can do that, and also, what can you share in terms of what is coming up, perhaps on, I guess, the product roadmap? Is there a Summer.fi token? Anything like that? Please, share.
Yeah, totally. So I think I said it before, but you can just access the DApp at Summer.fi. Please check the URLs and so on. We've got some really awesome features coming up, even just in the first quarter this year. At the moment, like I said, you've got Maker, Aave, Spark, just relaunched Arjna. I don't know how much you or your listeners have heard of Arjna last year. Obviously, it had a bug in the first version, but we just relaunched that last week. And Arjna does have a token. It's just a protocol supported on Summer, but we also have a huge amount of tokens to be farmed on Summer for the next 2 years, or just under 2 years now. So we've got a lot of users kind of using Arjna, and it only came out about 11 days ago for the relaunch. There's about 7% or 5% of the supply effectively farmable on Summer. So yeah, there's I think about 700,000 to 800,000 tokens a week that you can farm on Arjna right now. I suspect by the time this goes out, Morpho Blue will also be launched on Summer as well. Right now that goes out tomorrow for us, but I think that will be live on there. We've got another protocol hopefully launching before the end of the quarter, possibly with some more token incentives as well. But yeah, check it out. The team are on Discord all the time, kind of at all hours. So if you ever got any questions, you can just come to our Discord. There isn't a Summer.fi token at the moment. But yeah, never say never. No immediate plans this quarter at least. But I criticized the points earlier on, and you'll probably find Summer has some sort of point system. Like I have to eat my own hat or whatever in like 3 months' time and so on. But yeah, at the moment we're just a front end that supports other protocols that do have their tokens. You can also farm Spark tokens in their future airdrop as well. But yeah, crucially for us though, it's the main products of borrow, multiply, and earn, and hopefully like real utility in the product, and the tokens are a bonus in that sense. But yeah, we've got 5 new automation strategies coming out as well this quarter, which I'd encourage some people to check out if they can. Those are being expanded across the supported L2s as well. So if you don't have some huge bags and can't afford the mainnet Ethereum gas prices, then we're live on Optimism, Arbitrum, and Base as well, where it's obviously incredibly cheap to trade, and all the products are available there. And like I said, within a few weeks, all the automation strategies will be there as well.
Awesome. I think what we do now, Chris, is we go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back, we'll finish off, we'll have some fun. We'll run you through the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take Round. Back in 1 second.
Oh, this is a full-time job. Crypto markets really are 24/7. Oh, Elon's tweeted again about Dogecoin. I don't have the time to research the technical indicators of Dogecoin. What are you doing?
I just use CopyTrader on BitGet. 1 click and I'm copying the trades from an experienced crypto trader. Then it just gives me all the time in the world to watch my favourite Netflix shows and do all my favourite activities.
I've been up for 24 hours, I've had 16 cups of coffee, 8 energy drinks, and that bird noise is getting on my last nerve.
I think you need to go to bed.
Yeah, I need to go to bed.
Hands off, gains up. Start copy trading on BitGet.
All right, we are back, and I'm with Chris Bradbury. Chris is the CEO at Summer.fi. Sexy, fantastic, summary-looking front end to the wonderful world of DeFi. Hey, Chris, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Yeah, hit me.
I'm just going to run some questions at you, Chris. Just want your kind of honest hot take style answers. Question 1, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
I mean, I would say I'm an ETH maxi. Way more ETH maxi than a Bitcoin maxi. I don't really do anything on the Bitcoin network, so yeah, I'm gonna way off the scale.
I thought that would be the case. All right, well, what would you say then, Chris, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I mean, I think crypto is here to stay. Like blockchain technology and so on is 100% here to stay. Will it look like it does today in 10 years' time? I don't think it will look anything like it, but will it be used like in way more ways than it, like in way more kind of technology stacks than it is today? Then 100%. But I don't think DeFi won't look like it does today in 10 years' time.
Well, let's talk about that because, Bill Gates famously said we tend to overestimate what we can achieve in 2 years and underestimate what we can achieve in 10. So whatever you like, DeFi, Summer.fi, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
So, I mean, the optimist in me would say that like a lot of our a much larger part of our financial system around the world would be using kind of this transparent distributed ledger technology in one way or another to settle transactions all over the world in a very transparent, speedy, trusted way. But do I think that's probably going to be like the public Ethereum network? Probably not. But I still think if we're using kind of DLT technology by then I still think that's a huge success. And if that's got adoption by then it's given the green light to the technology at that point. And yeah, well, I think we'll be in a fairly heavily regulated world when it comes to the DeFi space. At that point, if it's still called DeFi, I mean, it will just be called fintech probably. Yes. By then, in reality, like fintech as we know it probably would have died in some ways. And this would have just taken over as fintech, but it will be heavily regulated, probably KYC'd in 80% of the world. And that's unfortunately the world we live in, right? Where we just have to fall in line and follow some of those rules if we want to get mass adoption.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, the flip side of this is a quote by William Gibson, Chris, who famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it? I
mean, I think the self-custody, the stuff in reality, there's obviously there's 100x better ways to do the self-custody in a safer way. But the fact that you can be in control of your assets, and again, I go and speak to like friends on my football team or whatever about crypto and the concept of self-custody. Like, not some of them use crypto, but not a single one of them has ever self-custodied their assets. But that freedom to kind of take it wherever you are, and only you have your key to do certain things, it's huge.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Very well said. All right, well, as we start to finish off, I guess the final question for you, Chris, is what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Ooh. I mean, I'm a big fan of Interstellar back in the day. So I'll say back in the day, it's probably not even that long ago, but it feels like a long time ago in crypto world. But I think Interstellar, somewhere like, again, probably way further out than 10 years time, but kind of that future is incredible. Yeah,
the classic, what's 3 hours or more, Christopher Nolan film.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but incredible piece of filmmaking, as you'd expect from the master Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And yeah, obviously we're generally pretty big Elon Musk fans, right? And in the crypto world as well, generally. And the SpaceX vibes and kind of what he's trying to do as well.
Yeah, very much so. Just taking the planet interplanetary.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic spending some time with you today, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, just close it out by shouting out your Twitter, Summer.fi's Twitter or X, and of course, the Summer.fi front-end website, all that stuff.
Yeah, Summer.fi is the website. I think the Twitter handle's Summer Finance _ I think, but best bet is just to hit Summer.fi, look in the footer, and you'll find all the different links there to Discord, Twitter, X, and anything else you're looking for there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. All the best, and bye for now.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Cheers.
All right, there you go. That was Chris from Summer.fi. Hey, Chris was great. Enjoyed talking to him. And yeah, Summer.fi. Hey, it looks great as well. Love the branding. Love the idea behind Summer.fi. And definitely, a good platform to jump into DeFi, especially, I guess, there's plenty there, plenty of more advanced strategies for DeFi power users. But also, if you just want to dip your toe in, a great place to look at some of the more basic strategies as well. Summer.fi, link is in the show notes. And that's the end of another show. Yeah, interesting times in the markets, I guess, as we talked about, the grayscale situation continues to unfold, just dumping, I don't know, it seems like billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin every day at the moment. Of course, the other ETFs buying a lot as well, but not quite enough to offset that. So that's kind of the story of the markets. And until that is resolved, altcoins, everything else is just going to, you don't expect much to happen while Bitcoin is falling. But I guess it's just, it's a waiting game, really. Of course, Bitcoin halving on the horizon. And just got to wait and see. How often do we think that? Anyway, that is it for another day. We've reached the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. Do make sure you're subscribed to the Crypto Conversation. But that is it for today. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin.